So now we're going to style our about HTML grid areas. So I'm going to need an about CSS file. So I'm just going to make one of those. And then I'm going to open that up with Visual Studio Code. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to link that file to my HTML file. So at the top of the HTML file, in between the header and the footer, I'm going to replace index with about. And now I've got the about CSS file linked to my about HTML file. And the first element I'm going to style is the main, the div element in the main element. So this time I've used a greater than symbol, and that means that the div is a direct descendant of main. So a direct descendant is like a child as opposed to a grandchild. We'll have a look at that a bit more in a moment. I'm going to set the background color to white. I'm going to give my containers a border radius of 10 pixels. I'm going to set the font size to 30 pixels. I'm going to have some padding, top right, bottom left around my containers of 20 pixels. And I'm going to align my text to the left. Next, I'm going to identify a level 2 heading inside a div inside main. Now, div is the child of main and h2 is the grandchild of main. Now, when we use the greater than symbol, what we're doing is we're saying that div is the direct descendant or the child of main, and h2 is the direct descendant or the child of div. So a short way would just be like that, and that's just saying there's a h2 inside main. But if we want to be more specific, we can use the greater than symbol and be very, very clear about what we're styling. It's sometimes a 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, but look, you're learning both ways. So we're going to set the H2 level heading 2 font size to 24 pixels. We're going to have a font weight, which is normal, and a text align center. Next, I'm going to identify a paragraph. Which is a grandchild of main or a child of div. And I'm just going to set the font size to 18 pixels. One last step is the grid template areas. So now in my main element, I'm going to set the background color to black. I'm going to display grid. And I'm going to set up grid template areas. And my grid template areas, I identify each area just with a full stop inside quotation marks. So I'm going to have 6 grid areas in my mobile view. And they're just going to be stacked vertically. So those 6 dots inside the quotations stacked vertically, it just means I've got 6 grid areas or containers stacked one on top of the other in a 1 column, 6 rows grid formation. And I'm going to have a bit of a gap in between my grids. So I'm going to specify grid. And it doesn't like that for some reason. Why not? And padding top right, bottom left, 20 pixels. It could be that the grid gap is obsolete or redundant because of the padding. We might just have a look at that in just a moment. So now if I refresh, I get 6 containers stacked vertically in one column. Now I'm just going to try removing that grid gap line and see if it makes any difference, because and it does. So I'll put it back in. And there we have our mobile view of our grid template areas.